for a weekend series. Meanwhile, Wisconsin could open the season under the lights at Lambeau Field against Notre Dame. That was announced this morning. Already knew the teams would match up in Green Bay on Sunday, September 6th, but it was revealed today that the kick will come at 6:30 on NBC. Badgers' third straight night opener, but the first against a Power 5 opponent since opening the 2015 season versus Alabama in Dallas. Wisconsin will be starting a different quarterback for a fifth straight year, this time with Old Dominion transfer Colton Joseph under center. He got off to a slow start in spring ball. QB coach Kenny Guyton says he closed strong.
I kind of felt at the start of it, he felt the pressure of, hey, I'm at a new school, people are expecting me to be this certain person and things like that. And you can kind of see it in his play where there's a little more nerves than him just playing football. And so about practice 3 or 4, somewhere in there where you just kind of felt like, okay, he's hitting his stride. And then I thought later on in spring, once we got to the last 2 weeks or so, it was just like, now he's playing football.
Badgers begin summer workouts here in a couple of weeks. The Packers, meanwhile, into phase 2 of their offseason program this week. They'll hit phase 3 in a couple of weeks with the start of OTAs.
Everyone should feel confident about their path forward. Exact Sciences is now Abbott, and together they will transform the way cancer is detected, diagnosed, and managed for more people around the world. They continue to help patients and healthcare providers make timely, informed decisions before, during, and after a cancer diagnosis by partnering with the industry's best minds and top institutions to transform how to approach cancer. Known for the Cologuard and Oncotype DX tests, allow Abbott to help make a positive impact in your health path forward. Learn more at abbott.com.
Well, the Bucks want to have Giannis Antetokounmpo's future decided by the start of the NBA draft next month. That's what co-owner Jimmy Haslam said yesterday following the introduction of new coach Taylor Jenkins. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil.
This is kind of I don't want to say transitional time, but definitely more turnover than they've had in recent memory. One, it's weird. You look at the stats from last year, their leading wide receiver was Romeo Dobbs with 55 catches. Wicks, who they just traded to the Eagles, caught 29 balls. So it's not like they had multiple guys, 80, 90 catches like they have in years past with the Jordy Nelsons, the Donald Drivers, the Devontae Adams. This is a unit that they're going to need to step up, and Tucker is a huge part of that. I think there's a ton of pressure on Matthew Golden. I think they need Matthew Golden to be, I don't know, a 65 to 75 catch guy immediately next year and give him explosive speed with Watson down the field and account for 7-8 touchdowns. This is a team, they're going to need some of their unproven guys to really pick it up. Tucker Kraft's got to be one of the best tight ends in the league. Micah Parsons has to be like a defensive player of the year type guy, which he has been over the course of his career.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
John Middlecoff, 3-and-Out podcast with the volume. Just kind of setting some parameters for the upcoming Packers season, and I like it. I like the framing. That's where I want to begin tonight, talk Packers for a little bit. And if you want to keep talking Packers, you're going to need to call in and add something if you want to join in, because I got about a segment or two on the Packers. We'll have a guest. Aaron Nagler is going to join us, and then the rest of the show. Little Brewers, little Bucks as well. Jim Owczarski is going to be here to give us his reaction to what he saw. Obviously, he covers the Bucks for the Journal-Sentinel, a more frequent guest on Bill's show. I actually don't know if he's ever been on this show. I play the comments. I play the cuts all the time because when he's on with Bill, I'll cut the best stuff, and then I'll play it on the 4 to 6, play it on the evening show. But he's going to be here in hour number 2, which is a little bit of a unique treat. His reaction, what he saw and heard, and his read on the situation yesterday as he covered the introduction of Taylor Jenkins. We had a little bit of audio from that last night, but it'd be nice to get an expert breakdown. As fun as it is for us to spitball from 10,000 feet, it'd be nice to have Jim Owczarski in hour number 2. But I want to start with the Packers. Like I said, this is the Wisco Sports Show. My name is Grant Bills. Happy Thursday. Thrilled that you are here, and I'll take your calls at 608-321-1670. The live stream up and running, the Wisco Sports Zone app, YouTube, my Twitter, at Wisco Grant, the show's Facebook page as well. Appreciate a like, a follow, a subscription, plug, like and subscribe, et cetera, et cetera. I like that framing from John Middlecoff. I saw that clip come up on my YouTube feed. I subscribed to his podcast. He used to post the whole podcast. The whole podcast would be available on YouTube. So I'd watch and listen a good amount. Now he's one of those podcasts that's gone to Netflix over the last year. I think Pardon My Take, Bill Simmons, Russillo, Middlecoff, which good for them. I mean, they're all getting good deals to stream on Netflix, and I guess good for Netflix. They have more inventory. I don't know the last time I've sat down and popped open Netflix, been like, all right, I got some free time. What should I watch tonight? I know. Let me throw on one of them video podcasts. Okay. I guess. So I don't admittedly see as much or listen to as much John Middlecoff as I certainly was during football season, but just I don't come across it as much because there's less content on YouTube. But I really liked how he set up and how he's kind of defining the parameters for this upcoming Packers season. Now, some of you might hear that. He said it's a bit of a transition year. And I think some of you might hear that if you're a little defensive. I think we get a little defensive, a little tribal about our team. Some of you might hear that and say, what do you mean? This team is contending. This team's trying to win a Super Bowl. Correct. They are. A transition year doesn't necessarily mean a team can't contend. I think if we were to look back at the last couple of champions in each of the major American sports, you could probably find a team or two in there that was in a bit of a transition. A transition doesn't mean you're taking a step back, or it doesn't mean you're rebuilding. It just means you're going through changes. And I think changes in the NFL are probably more common than in baseball or in basketball. The NBA, they swing a lot of big trades and superstars move around. Not as much maybe as they used to, maybe 5 or 10 years ago. The NFL, there's always 6 or 7 players getting drafted, joining the roster. There's always a bunch of guys leaving. The salary cap kind of necessitates that. The rosters are always churning in the NFL. And I think you hear football coaches often say, well, next year will be a brand new team. We're starting again at 0-0. And that's a cliche, but it's true. Whereas I think maybe NBA teams, they stay a little bit more defined year to year. Baseball teams, a lot of changeover maybe in the bullpen, but I think for contending baseball teams, there's a lot of continuity from year to year, a little bit of a weirder, different sport, hard to compare. There's a lot of turnover in the NFL, but I think specifically for this Packers team, I think a transitional year, that's a good way to frame it. Their roster had been pretty darn steady the last 3 years, really since Jordan Love took over. He's had the same group of receivers: Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks. Those are the players that were drafted either the year before Love started or the year of Jordan Love's, basically debut, his essential rookie year. He sat for a couple of years, but that's been his receiver group. That's changing a little bit. The offensive line has had a little turnover, but the left tackle hasn't. Rasheed Walker's been the guy. He's now on his way out the door, just like Dontavian Wicks and Romeo Doubs. On the defensive side of the ball, I don't know that there's as much turnover. Rashawn Gary leaving is certainly significant, although I don't know that I view that as a major loss. I don't think the Packers do either. But Quay Walker, yeah, not a superstar, but certainly a player. If money was no object and the salary cap didn't exist, and you could just it was just certainly a decision based on quality of play. Do we want to keep the guy or no? I think the Packers, you can make the case, we'll get rid of Rashawn Gary. Quay Walker, you'd love to keep him. Not a superstar, but a player that you'd love to have on the roster. Same with Romeo Doubs. Same with Dontavian Wicks to a lesser degree. Like all players the Packers, I'm sure, would have loved to keep, but they're coming up on new deals. And you have to start prioritizing which of all of these young players to give a new contract to extend. I think the Packers are going to extend Christian Watson. They're going to extend Tucker Kraft. They just drafted Matthew Golden. They extended Zach Tom. They extended Zach Ryan. So Rasheed Walker's out. Romeo Doubs is out. Dontavian Wicks traded away with a year left on his contract. So it's a transitional year. Luckily, in off seasons like this one, the Packers are a very forward-thinking organization with the way that they draft. They draft Jordan Morgan maybe a year or two before they are in dire need of his services. They draft Matthew Golden a year before they're in dire need of his services. On the defensive side of the ball, I guess they drafted Lucas Van Ness maybe a little bit earlier than they needed him. Defensive line's a bit different. It's unlike O-line, and the guys are rotating. So you don't have to play a huge role as a rookie. You can still be impactful as an edge rusher or defensive lineman. Quay Walker's out, but then they targeted and they signed Zaire Franklin. They brought him in, right? A defensive lineman like, for example, Rashawn Gary. They've had other departures along that line. They bring in Javon Hargrave. All right, so guys coming in, guys going out, but especially with some of the players that the Packers drafted. Jordan Morgan, Matthew Golden, been on the roster a year and two, in the case of Morgan. Haven't really been called on to play two significant roles. Jordan Morgan is a swing guy. This last year was kind of moved around and used in a lot of different spots. But week one, he's expected, I would assume, to be the left tackle. And if he sucks at it, the Packers are going to be in a really, really tough spot. Matthew Golden now is going to be expected to slide into that Romeo Doubs spot. And as you heard John Middlecoff discuss there, Matthew Golden's going to have real expectations this year. If he doesn't have a certain amount of catches, a certain amount of touchdowns, like the Packers are going to be in a tough spot offensively, especially with Tucker Kraft coming back from injury. Now, I also think the Packers need their superstar on both sides of the ball to be a superstar. Micah Parsons is going to have to come back and be like a defensive player of the year caliber player. That defense needs it. I don't think the offense is in as dire need of Tucker Kraft coming back and being a stud. I think you saw pretty clearly down the stretch last year, they were able to score and move the ball without him. Maybe they missed him a little bit, third down, fourth down, red zone, 2 minute. And those are those all-important situations that we've discussed. So maybe they missed Tucker Kraft there, but they were able to move the ball and score points without him. The defense missed Micah Parsons a lot more. They're going to need him to be a superstar. So when you think again about this transitional year, the Packers ushering in some younger players into new spots as fourth, fifth year players are kind of moving out because they didn't get extensions. Matthew Golden going to have a lot asked of him. Jordan Morgan going to have a ton asked of him. Anthony Belton probably as well, a player that we discuss a little bit less, but a second-round pick from last year. Going to be asked to do quite a bit, I would assume. Now Sean Ryan looks like he's going to move to center. Jordan Morgan moving to left tackle. So Anthony Belton kind of becomes that next man up if he can grab a starting spot. I'm sure the Packers would love that. Otherwise, Jagger Burton, maybe the rookie, maybe he's going to grab a spot. We'll hear a little bit from Adam Stenavich in tonight's show. I took 4 or 5 of his comments from earlier this week. Not a coach that we've heard from. We've heard from Gannon and Accord. We haven't heard from Adam Stenavich. So I just took 3 or 4 answers specifically about the O-line. But these are all players that the Packers are going to need to perform. It's a transitional year. And then, of course, as the offseason really picks up, and when I mean pick up, winds down, because the OTAs and the rookie mini camps are going to come and go. And then we're going to be sitting in the middle of the summer in June and July waiting for training camp to start. And we're going to have all those conversations that we always have on Sports Talk Radio. Which players are under the most pressure? Which players have the most to prove? Which players need to take the biggest leap, right? All of these questions. I think all of those questions are a part of what we're discussing right now with the Packers being a transitional year. I think in each of the last 2 years, a lot of the players from one year to the next were kind of stable. Jordan Love's first year as a starter, a lot of promise. Right? There was a lot of belief after that first year. And going into year 2, especially in offense, they didn't really replace anyone. I guess they went to get Josh Jacobs. Running back is, I suppose, a little different. But all the wide receivers were the same and maintained their same roles. A lot of the offensive linemen remained the same, maintained their same roles from Jordan Love's first year as a starter to the second year. That was a very stable offseason from 1 to 2. From 2 to 3, they made some changes. We're going to bring in Banks. We're going to draft some new O-linemen. Right? We're going to draft Matthew Golden and Savion Williams, even if they're not going to play or get the ball a whole lot. I think now from year 3 to year 4, there's a lot of players. There's a lot of positions that are now turning over. This is going to happen a lot over the course of Jordan Love's tenure as starter. It happened a lot with Rodgers, happened a lot with Favre. Anytime you have a stable quarterback, especially a stable quarterback, making a lot of money. Now the Packers defense has a player making a lot of money too in Micah Parsons. Anytime you have that, you're going to need younger players, cheaper players to slide in and take the mantle from the guy who's sliding out. It's the objective of all of these NFL front offices and general managers to find someone younger, cheaper, better. Otherwise, the team gets old and expensive and crappy, or just crappy. If you're letting players go, maybe you're not getting as old and expensive, but you're getting crappy because the young guys you draft and identified as replacements can't play. And I think that's the type of thing that the Packers are looking at this offseason. It's a transitional offseason. And as we really get into the offseason, when things really slow down, who's under the most pressure, who has the most to prove, who are the Packers relying on the most, who's got to take the biggest jump, right? All of those topics. So this is almost a precursor to the offseason, identifying the parameters a little bit, kind of recognizing the patterns and the things that the Packers are going to need to happen this offseason as their roster turns over in some important spots. I think wide receiver 2, which is an important position given your wide receiver 1 has a penchant for missing time here and there, Christian Watson. And your wide receiver 3, Jaden Reed, misses time too. Left tackle, important position. Possibly cornerback, who's playing opposite Keyshawn Nixon. Can Brandon Cisse step in and play that role? That would be significant. Right, Quay Walker's leaving. Not a younger, cheaper player, but Zaire Franklin coming in, an older veteran. Can he slide in? A lot of transition happening everywhere. I think that's going to be a big, big, big part of whether or not the Packers can take a leap and compete for the division and win playoff games, or they just kind of hang in the same spot they've been in, which is 9-10 wins. Maybe if the schedule's weak, maybe you get 11 like they did 2 years ago. And we're going to make the playoffs, go on the road in the first round, and probably lose. That's what the story's been the last 2 years. Let's take a break. If you have any Packers thoughts, I'll take your calls. Otherwise, we're going to get to Aaron Nagler, Cheesehead TV. Join us to talk about all this. I had a chance to catch up with him earlier today. You'll hear that conversation next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
This is kind of a, I don't want to say transitional time, but definitely more turnover than they've had in recent memory. You know, one, it's weird. You look at the stats from last year, their leading wide receiver was Romeo Doubs with 55 catches. You know, Wicks, who they just traded to the Eagles, caught 29 balls. So it's not like they had multiple guys, 80, 90 catches like they have in years past with the Jordy Nelsons, the Donald Drivers, the, Devontae Adams. This is a unit that they're going to need to step up, and Tucker is a huge part of that. I think there's a ton of pressure on Matthew Golden. I think they need Matthew Golden to be, I don't know, a 65 to 75 catch guy immediately next year and give him, explosive speed with Watson down the field and account for 7-8 touchdowns.
One more time, John Middlecoff, just kind of setting the parameters for the Packers season. Just kind of building our entrance into the show today, talking a little Packers to get the ball rolling. And earlier today, I had a chance to catch up with one of my favorite people in the football space, Aaron Nagler. Doesn't happen very often. Cheesehead TV. Here is our conversation, just kind of kicking off Well, with that exact topic, and I got to find the starting point here. Sorry, I didn't edit this right. Here you go. Brian Gutekunst, I think in that Sirius XM interview, Mike Clemens just sends me mountains of sound bites. I'm assuming that's where that's from. It's from the Clemens files. Just an update on Parsons and Kraft. All good, it sounds like. Just gets us back into our segment. We're leading with the Packers today. We go to the Schneider Orange Hotline. If you're looking for a change in career, if you're a driver, you're already working in logistics, you're looking for a new home, Schneider can be your spot. Or maybe you're looking to begin your career and you need a place to start. Need some training, need some certification, just need to get the wheels rolling. Pardon the pun. Schneider can be your home for that as well. Go to schneiderjobs.com, 844-PRIDE. For over 90 plus years now, they've been getting it done. You work hard, they'll treat you right. Go to schneiderjobs.com. Let's go to the Schneider Orange Hotline. Aaron Nagler is here. We finally have some off-season activities. Aaron, thank you for being here. It's nice to see you. Did you have any boxes that you needed to see checked either at practice or in those introductory press conferences for some of the new coaches that you felt were checked for you this last week?
I mean, nothing was terribly surprising, right? I mean, I think Gannon said everything everybody expected him to regarding the scheme or not having one, 3-4 versus 4-3 being overblown. This is everything we've talked about. And Grant, I got to hand it to you, man. You nailed it months ago when you put out the humorous tweet about what to expect whenever we heard from a new defensive coordinator, because it is almost, there's a playbook, right? Like, I want to put my guys in a position to succeed. We're going to be violent. We're going to be fast. We're going to take the ball away. It's like, yeah, that's great. That's what everyone hopes. And that's what you knew Jonathan Gannon was going to talk about. So I don't think anything there really surprised me. Certainly didn't, kind of come away from that thinking, wow, this is revolutionary, but I didn't expect it to be, right? I will say, though, Cam Achord really impressed me. And I understand the disaster that special teams have been in Green Bay for so long. But, man, if there's a guy who seems to eat, sleep, and breathe ball and or special teams and has at least an idea of what it's going to take to get it turned around in Green Bay, I don't know, man. I get winning the press conference doesn't mean anything, but I thought he acquitted himself really well. I loved his mentality. It is going to be funny to watch a guy who is handed an actual returner and then probably get praised for having a return game.
Yeah.
But yeah, I came away very impressed with his just approach and his tone and just his kind of worldview, as it were, when it comes to football and special teams.
I guess partially started getting out ahead of this in like December when Bisaccia was still here, and I'll continue to plant my flag before this becomes an issue. If their special teams continue to stink, I'm not blaming this guy. I'm not blaming another special teams coordinator. I'm going to look at the head coach, and I don't even know that I can blame the GM. Whether or not you like drafting a kicker, he addressed that position. He's signed a returner. I think if he doesn't make the roster, Matt LaFleur probably plays a pretty big part in that. I refuse to believe that all of these special teams coordinators are idiots, that they've hired like 6 or 7 idiots in a row.
I do. Well, it's possible.
It's possible.
I've met a lot of football coaches, but
sure.
I will say, I do think, at some point you do have to look at the coach and the program, right? Because it is intertwined. It is a symbiotic relationship when you talk about personnel and coaching and who you're choosing to put on the field. Don't look any further than that game in Cleveland last year where they have the kick blocked, right? And then they have another kick block the next week against the Cowboys. And then lo and behold, they start putting starters out there for field goal protection and they're holding up. It's amazing. And that is a head coach directive. That's driven by the head coach allowing the special teams coordinator to utilize starters on teams in every facet. So now that doesn't absolve the special teams coordinators. It doesn't absolve the actual players on the field that are tasked with, you have to come through. You have to do your job. But it is way more than just the special teams coordinator. And that's why I always thought, I get it was frustrating and Bisaccia got run out of town and fans were sick of it. But man, the coverage units really improved under Bisaccia. Daniel Whelan became a really good punter under Bisaccia. It's not like it was all terrible, but, someone's got to swing. And it certainly felt like he was tired of it. The fact that it took as long as it did for him to say, okay, you know what, I ain't coming back, would suggest that he was tired of things.
Yeah, it's roster management. and allowing certain guys to play special teams. And it's impossible for me to judge this and for even embedded beat reporters because they don't see everything at practice. It's also time that's being allocated at practice.
Big time.
Carving out time on our schedule to work on this or to study this. So those are
you get what you
things.
Emphasize. That's the old axiom, right? And it is funny though, because I do remember, I think it was even last summer where there was a day at camp where they did so much special teams.
Did they?
LaFleur, was joking with us on the sideline, like, get what you emphasize, what you always talk to me about, right? So I think he's cognizant of it. It isn't like it's not known to him, right? But the results are undeniable. They have to be better, and hopefully Acord is a big answer there.
You mentioned Acord winning the press conference. It's funny because my biggest takeaway, really maybe my only takeaway, because it was all expected from the Gannon presser, was I don't know that I've seen a new coordinator appear to try less to win a press conference. He just got up there and and a caller pointed this out to me. I thought it was a great point. It's because he has done this job at the NFL level very recently. And that wasn't true of Joe Barry. That wasn't true of Jeff Hafley. So maybe that's a reason, now that I'm thinking about it a couple of days, a reason to really like this job. He feels like, I just did this at a high level. I don't have to prove my wares. I don't have to talk your ear off. I'm just here to do the job that I've done before. I guess that's
got the job already.
Yeah.
I did think it was interesting and somewhat revealing when he talked about the kind of 2 days he spent with LaFleur and company during the interview process and then going home and telling his wife, that's where I want to be. I will say there was one interesting little nugget in there regarding who he interviewed with and who he was speaking to. With LaFleur, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Gutekunst, yeah, well, that makes a world of sense. Russ Ball, okay, I get he's the
why not
he's part of the trio ahead of football, okay. And Ed Policy, I don't know, man. I get Ed's the head of the whole thing and he's overseeing football now, but I want my president and CEO to let the football people do the football stuff. I understand, again, that is his purview and that is the way the power structure was changed when Murphy was there and Policy has kept it. I get all that. But, man, the further away the president and CEO is from football, the better off the Packers have been historically. So there's just a little note that I just thought, interesting.
I'm really upset I missed that. I've been doing 2 shows all week. I could have done an hour on that.
The only reason I even noticed it is because going back and rereading the transcript, which is how nerdy I am, is that got thrown in there.
That's funny. Aaron Nagler is here, Cheesehead TV. I think one of the things you do best, your coverage is being connected to fans and fielding questions and talking about what your viewers and listeners want to talk about. And I'm sure you get this question a ton, so I would just like to make you answer it again for maybe this audience. What do you tell people this time of year when you're talking about draft picks or new hires? What do you tell Packers fans that are just completely and totally convinced none of this matters because I don't believe in the head coach?
Ooh. Well, that's a tough one. It's a tough one to turn around after 7 years, right? When you're talking about a head coach that's been there and you've seen the good, you've seen the bad. I will say I understand the misgivings around Matt LaFleur. I will also say that there's a reason Ed Policy stuck with him. And I do think a big part of it is, again, I always try to differentiate between, okay, there's a team each and every year, right? Like the 2025 team is going to be very different than whatever ends up being the 2026 team. But the program is LaFleur's, right? The football program. And I don't think he gets enough credit for what he did. And as dramatic as the teams changed between the trading of Aaron Rodgers and then going with Jordan Love and how hard it was to watch there at the start with a new first-time starter and the way he brought along the youngest team in the NFL 3 years in a row. You can talk about the 7th seed. You can talk about, sliding in whatever to the just making the playoffs, whatever, but that is an accomplishment. Now, they've clearly taken the next step in their program as far as, okay, we're starting to identify who our core guys are. We're signing some veterans. We've got this window here. And I think that's what it is with Policy. He wants to give Matt LaFleur the chance to finish what they were clearly on the road to doing last year as far as being 9-3-1. They were in the mix to go on a Super Bowl run. I don't care what anyone says. They're winning that game in Denver. Disaster strikes. It all falls apart because of injury. Okay, I'm not going to fire the guy because of that. That's clearly the thinking here, right? That over the 7 years he's been here, he has really done a great job of transitioning from 4-time MVP, 2 of which, by the way, are 2 of those MVPs are who contributed at least somewhat to Matt LaFleur. and then turning to a first-time starter with the youngest team in the league, getting into the playoffs all 3 years. That doesn't just happen, right? So now, yes, it's frustrating at times. Yes, you can quibble with coaching decisions. I get it. But the program is heading in the right direction. And I do think these next 2 years are pivotal for whatever the extension was. We don't know the particulars. We don't know how many years, etc. But I got to think the idea, perhaps the directive, is we need deep runs. We need championship level play for these next 2 seasons, especially when you look at Micah Parsons' contract. I mean, that's where the first real pressure point happens after these next 2 seasons. But yeah, he's going to let Matt LaFleur hopefully finish the job and watch this team mature and go and win a championship here in the next couple seasons.
Put a pin in the Parsons contract, because that's what I want to ask you about lastly. But one more before we do that. I just wonder, Ed Policy was on with you and Corey, Packers transplants. We played that on Bill's show. It's really good audio. And he just made it sound like he was cocksure. Matt LaFleur was kind of always his guy. And we've heard him say this before. I just wonder if you would have told Ed Policy after the Denver game, I am from the future. Your team's not winning another football game this year.
For 5 in a row.
I just wonder what he would have said in that moment. And if he would have, and then I could also say, Ed, you're not going to win another game, and you were going to, re-sign your coach with a bullet. I just wonder if that would have surprised him. Obviously then you get the context of how those losses go, but I just wonder, I feel like he would have been jarred in that moment.
I don't think so at all. The point that I always come back to from that interview when you're asking about LaFleur and his decision, he talks about being in the interview process when they hired LaFleur, right? And the fact that he's known LaFleur these last 7 years, I think he very much believes in Matt as a coach, but also as a program builder. And the fact that the program has done a pretty damn good job of identifying some young talent, bringing it along, developing it. You're just talking about Tucker Kraft. I mean, Tucker Kraft is a draft pick who was having an all-pro type season last year. That's development.
Yeah.
That doesn't just happen. Look, if it just happened, you'd do it with every player, right? Luke Musgrave would be on par with Tucker Kraft, but it's not. But Tucker has come along and has become a really good player. There are a couple other examples you can point to as well. I just think fans want everything all the time, right away. And I get it's frustrating when you watch other teams hire and fire, have a second-year head coach, go win the Super Bowl this past season. Yeah, you want some of that. I get it. It's not how the Packers operate. Historically, they've never looked that way. When they are at their strongest and at their best as an organization, they're taking the long view, which is what policy is doing, which I understand and somewhat, I pretty much support.
I didn't mean for this to turn into a LaFleur thing, but like Gannon, I don't have a playbook. I go with wherever the conversation goes. Lastly, I played a John Middlecoff cut where he basically talked about this kind of a transitional year for the Packers. They're moving off of
John's a smart guy. I've been following John for a long time. He's very on point. I don't agree with everything he says, but it's rare when a national guy gets the Packers, and he gets the Packers.
I think he just really gets. I think you need to get football on a really deep level to get an operation like the Packers. And he was talking a little bit about how this is a transitional year. They've let some guys go. Now, Goody has drafted guys to slide into those spots. I just want to ask you about 2 names. So Jordan Morgan's assumedly going to slide in and be the left tackle. Matthew Golden assumedly slides into the wide receiver 2 spot in Romeo Dobbs' shoes. Is there a player out of those 2 that would concern you more? It's like, I don't know if they can carry the freight or do what's needed, to fill in the shoes that are kind of left behind, or any player who you're looking at who's expected to step up this offseason that you kind of circle as like, I don't know, I maybe would be a little concerned, or I would be excited about that. Those transitional players.
Honestly, the only concern I have is we get to week 1 and Carrington Valentine is still the starting corner opposite Keyshawn Nixon.
Sure.
Which, by the way, it's the Green Bay Packers. We just watched Matthew Golden ride the pine all year when it was clear that he was talented and needed to get involved. So,
and they had guys hurt
past him, right?
That's what's crazy. Watson missed time, Reed missed time, Kraft missed time, and still Matthew Golden really didn't get all that many opportunities.
There was a very frustrated moment during the season where I made a clip where I said, if you told me that Matthew Golden was a organizational prank being pulled on Packers fans, I would believe it. It's just that was so frustrating. But as for those 2 players, no, I think both of them are up to the task. I thought Jordan Morgan should have won the job coming out of training camp last summer. I didn't think there was any question there. And that's what drives you nuts, right? With Matthew Golden, I thought we all saw it at camp. We saw how talented he was. Now I understand certainly talked to a couple people on both the coaching staff and the personnel side in the building who talked about, yeah, he was struggling with the playbook at times early in the season, which is expected. It's a rookie, right? I don't think there's any greater example than down in Dallas early in the game where Love hits him deep, but it's very clear that that's supposed to be for Wicks, and Golden just runs into his route. That's not the design there. So there's those growing pains you're going to have to deal with. But yeah, man, I don't know. I do think Jordan Morgan is an upgrade over Rasheed Walker. And I think Golden is clearly a more athletic player and has a way higher ceiling than Romeo Doubs.
Agreed.
One thing I will say about the Doubs thing that always kind of bugged the hell out of me, I was on Mason Crosby's show last year. Mm-hmm. And there was a point where Mason's a former player, so he can say this, right? When I don't want to say it because I'm just a schmo with a microphone who likes the Packers. What do I know? But I was lamenting the fact that we're force feeding Romeo Doubs. I don't understand it. And Mason doesn't miss a beat, just says, oh yeah, that's just Jordan getting his buddy Romeo paid. And it's well, okay, I kind of had that thought in the back of my head, but I never materialized it and just said it out loud. But yeah, there's a former NFL player saying exactly what I was suspecting. That's Jordan Love. Just zeroing in, much like, we saw it with Rodgers and Devontae Adams back in the day.
Time is just a flat circle, man.
I'm just I didn't need you to confirm it because now I just get to sit here and be mad about it, right?
Interesting.
Now, of course, Mason doesn't know, but that's his assumption.
Right? But I don't think a former player throws that out the way that we would throw it out. That's the thing.
So I was kind of stopped in my tracks in the middle of the segment, but I'm that makes sense. That's what it looks like. And look, did or did not Romeo Doubs end up getting paid?
He did get paid. I'm with you. I think Golden has the higher ceiling in the traits, and he might have week one last year. It's not surprising that the Packers went slow with the first round pick, but they're not going to be able to do that this year. He's going to be counted on as
he's got to perform. He's got to be included. No question.
And that's that comment from Middlecoff that I caught. I'll replay it on the other side of this break. I kept you too long, Aaron. Thank you so much for helping me out as I'm in for Bill one more day today. Nice to see you.
Not a problem. Anytime you want, Grant. Thanks so much for having me, man.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Wisco Sports Show, welcome back. Appreciate Aaron Nagler, his time joining us earlier on the network. I was in for Bill 10 to 2 again, repurposing some interviews because my brain is mush. If you want to join, talk Packers for a little bit longer here, 608-321-1670. Give me a call or shoot me a text. Madtown Ryan says Nags is one of the best parts of football season. His takes every week are amazing. It's funny, Nagler's such a polarizing figure. People are always bent out of shape. And I guess this is true of Bukowski too, but I think Bukowski earns a little bit more. And I love Peter. Peter's one of my favorite people in the Wisconsin sports or the Packers sphere. But Peter earns it. He would tell you that. Nagler can sometimes be polarizing with people. And I don't really, so I'll watch his live streams. I'm like, dude's pretty reasonable. It's very reasonable, actually. Maybe the most reasonable. Him and Andy. Probably Andy doesn't get too controversial. Peter earns it. Peter deserves it a little bit. We were talking a little bit about Jordan Morgan sliding in at left tackle. Here is a bit from Adam Stenovich, just some comments on the O-line, some different positions and some different players on the O-line. Adam Stenovich, Packers offensive coordinator, the other day saying, do you have confidence in Jordan Morgan? Where does that confidence come from? Jordan Morgan going into year 3, assumedly sliding into left tackle.
Last year, Rashid was out for a little while in preseason. So then we moved Jordan to left tackle, and he did a great job. He played in preseason against some pretty good defensive linemen. I remember from the Colts last year, and I saw him play, and I was like, yeah, he's ready. He looked pretty good. We had to use him in other spots last year because that was what was best for the team, but I'm excited about him this year.
I remember Gutekunst saying last year, too, that Rasheed Walker was, they were splitting reps in the preseason and in training camp. And Brian Gutekunst basically saying that Jordan Morgan maybe had done enough to earn that job, that he might have even been the starting left tackle last year, if not for injuries elsewhere. They needed him elsewhere. If Zach Tom hadn't gone down, and I don't think they would have kept him away from left tackle if they thought he was their best left tackle in order to rotate at right guard, which is what they were doing with him, Sean Ryan. But then he's got to play right tackle because Zach Tom's hurt. So Rasheed Walker, who is healthy throughout, he just sticks at left tackle. But I know that Brian Gutekunst said it. Is that I think he had done enough at times in training camp and in the preseason to earn the starting job outright over Rasheed Walker, and it just really wasn't allowed to be because their right tackle gets hurt, their left guard at times gets hurt, their center gets hurt, their other center gets hurt. So I don't know. I think we live in a different world right now. Possibly we could be in a different world where Jordan Morgan has already taken over as the left tackle, where he had already supplanted Rasheed Walker last year. If the rest of the line is healthier, it's just not the way the season played out because of injuries along the O-line. Another question, Adam Stenavich, Anthony Belton, what's going on with him? And Adam Stenavich basically saying this is a really big stretch for him this early offseason, these early offseason opportunities.
I'd say right now, probably center, just because he has the most familiarity from his college game in there. He's really athletic. That was the cool thing, just going through watching him. He's got a lot of really good traits to be a center in the NFL. Really strong kid. He plays with a lot of strength, good base. I'm excited about him. He showed some good stuff in the rookie mini camp for the little portion that we had him. So, I'm excited to get him here and work with him.
So I believe he was talking about Jager Burton there. I played the wrong cut. That's my bad. This is Anthony Belton, I believe.
Last year, he was a tackle, and we were just having him play swing tackle, focus on that. And then all of a sudden, we lost a bunch of guys, and it's like, hey, bud, you got to go in and play guard. And when he went out there against Detroit and played, that was really the first week he'd ever played guard for us. So credit to him for going out there and doing it and playing pretty well. But I think now just focusing on the little fundamentals, the little details, we can teach him all that stuff from a guard's perspective. I think that'll be really good for him.
So I wonder if Belton is ultimately going to be their starting right guard. I wonder, and again, this goes back to our conversation about Sean Ryan. Do they want Sean Ryan? Do they hope Sean Ryan's their starting center? Or do they hope that maybe Jager Burton wins that starting center job so they can play Sean Ryan at right guard, so they can play Anthony Belton at tackle or have him be a swing tackle? I think in a perfect world, that's how I would like to see this offensive line set up. Jager Burton's awesome and is your center right away. And the cut that you heard previously was Adam Stenavich talking about Jager Burton probably projects best at center. So what if Burton's the center? Sean Ryan's the right guard, Zach Tom the right tackle, Banks the left guard, Jordan Morgan the left tackle, and now Anthony Belton's your swing tackle, and he's your new Jordan Morgan. I like that. I think that makes a whole lot of sense. Here's Adam Stenavich on Sean Ryan, where they like him, what he thinks of that player who they just extended.
There's still going to be competition. Don't get me wrong. These guys every day got to go out there and be their best and play. And these guys that, are in the backup type positions, I'm expecting them to push and fight for starting spots every single day. But yeah, when you got a group that has played together for a little bit and gone out there and done it, that's very comforting for sure.
So saying that Sean Ryan, there's going to be competition at center, I kind of think they hope Jager Burton. I kind of think they hope Jager Burton wins the center job. That's what I'd be hoping for. Then you can play Sean Ryan at right guard, which has always been his natural position. And then Belton's your swing tackle. That's what I would like. Some bigger picture comments. Adam Stenavich, how can the offensive line get better? How can they grow?
I'm not going to put a prediction on him or anything. I just want to see him come in and work. He's going to play guard. He's going to play center, and we'll kind of see.
All right. So I'm all over the place with my cuts. And it's not that I don't want to take accountability. This is on me. I don't point fingers, I point thumbs. But Mike Clemens, you don't care about this. It's just it's the labeling system here. It could be a little clearer. Mike, love you, Mike. My brain is mush. I'm doing 2 shows a week. This is not exactly the clearest labeling system here. Here's Adam Stenavich, Packers offensive coordinator. How can the offensive line get better and improve this season?
I think our execution.
God,
we were inconsistent with our execution for sure. And I just want to see us play with that physicality, that toughness that really defines who we are as Packer offensive linemen.
Physicality, toughness. Thank you. I would like to see that as well. That's what I was going for when I tried to play the last cut. Grant's getting angry. Lastly, Adam Stenavich saying it's early, but he likes the starting 5. And I think that's something that Bill's talked about as well. I don't know that their talent has gotten significantly better from last year to this year, but just knowing where everybody's going to play makes a really big difference, right? So here's Adam Stenavich, cut number 3, but it's labeled Steno 6. This is Adam Stenavich talking about how it's early, but he likes his starting five.
There's still going to be competition. Don't get me wrong. These guys every day got to go out there and be their best and play. And these guys that, are in the backup type positions, I'm expecting them to push and fight for starting spots every single day. But yeah, when you got a group that has played together for a little bit and gone out there and done it, that's very comforting for sure.
Okay. Adam Stenavich. There's some cuts. Adam Stenavich stumbled through that a little bit. Again, I don't point fingers, I point thumbs. Again, could work on my labeling system here for my audio. Let's take a call. 608-321-1670, Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
This is incredible. Have we reached the Grant crashing out at Mike Clement's labeling system?
We got very close. It's not Mike's fault. He has these labeled correctly. It's just I'm not going to describe what this email looks like. Okay, that's not worth anybody's time, Vagabond John. It's on me. It's just there's a lot of room. I'm not crashing out, but that's as close as we're going to get tonight. I just needed a moment there. I gave myself a moment. Now we're good.
Now we're mixing in the call. Hey, offensive line in the NFL is just crazy. Sometimes you see these teams that have like 4 of their starters go down and their offensive line somehow gets better. So it's just like talent is definitely there, but also the guys who are, I don't know, second string on most of these NFL teams can probably plug and play on most other NFL teams and go out there. And if there's a really clear game plan that's well executed and well prepared for and well coached and everybody kind of knows what they're doing, these guys are all hogs, man.
I agree with that.
All of these dudes go out there and just like execute, simple plays.
And if you have a great player next to you on one side or the other to play off of, yeah, absolutely, all of that stuff factors in.
So I think I trust the staff to put together a competent line talent-wise. Now, offensive scheme-wise, are they going to be able to hold up, with Matt LaFleur? And some of the times it gets so gimmicky, and some of the times the plays take a long time to develop. And it's like you could put, the 2007 New England Patriots offensive line out there, and some of these play calls and some of the stuff that they're trying to run just doesn't work.
No,
the Bears.
We're talking about LaFleur, not Jeff Grimes here, Vagabond John. We're talking about Matt LaFleur.
Yeah. Speaking of Jeff Grimes in Wisconsin, hard pivot. Can I just make one point on recruiting in the state of Wisconsin and basketball?
Go ahead. You have 60 to 90 seconds, and then I have to take a break.
Perfect. It's as simple as this. Greg Gard and the Wisconsin Badgers have made it very clear that they are going after experience, foreigners that are 6 years in post-high school playing basketball, sometimes playing in professional leagues. Iowa State has always made it very clear that they're going to prioritize youth and talent. Iowa State hasn't finished, I don't think, in the top 2 in the Big 12 once since Otzelberger, or however you pronounce his name, has been there. Have they had postseason success? Sure, they've made a couple Sweet 16.
No Elite Eights, though.
No Elite Eights. And to pretend that guy's putting together a national contender with, all of Wisconsin's backyard. I will point out, and this is the main point, I'm CU Marquette fans. Okay, we share this state. And for some reason, all of Twitter wants to jump on Greg Gard every time an in-state kid goes out of state. There is another Division I basketball school in our state, unlike football. And I see you, Marquette fans. I see you looking in the dark. I don't know why Greg Gard gets all the hate. The dude wins games. The dude brings in professional talent from Australia. I don't know what Marquette's plan is, and I think we should shine the light back towards Tony in Texas a little more often.
I love how Tony, I appreciate it, Vagabond John. I don't even think Tony in Texas is a Marquette fan. I just think he's the closest thing we have to a proxy. So we bang up on him for Marquette. No, you're right. Greg Gard, they're prioritizing their resources to guys who can come and help them win right away. And high school recruits can't always do that. Now, was that true 5 years ago? Maybe not. And it's been a struggle going back. But to Vagabond John's point, it's not like Iowa State's going on deep postseason runs. Now, neither is Wisconsin currently. Currently. But that doesn't mean that they haven't, at least more recently than TJ Otzelberger or whatever. Let's take a break, a little bit late. One final segment. We'll wrap up hour number 1 next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Final segment, the Wisco Sports Show. I want to apologize. Even though I made it abundantly clear I have no complaints about Mike Clemens, I want to apologize. Mike, you label your cuts very well. My brain, and the way that my brain works, failed to correctly recognize certain numbers and certain cuts. Goose Eggs on the live stream says, Grant is leaking oil, and there's smoke coming out of his ears. I think he could really use a call, and I can't for another 20 minutes. No, it's fine. I actually, on the other side here, we're going to get to the Bucks before too long because we're going to chat with Jim Owczarski, the Journal Sentinel, who was on our network earlier today. You'll hear that conversation. And I also, I got to tell you, I know this story doesn't do it for everyone, but you got to let me do 5 to 8 minutes on this latest development in the Diana Russini, Mike Vrabel thing. Not because I really care about Mike Vrabel or Diana Russini. The story has reached a spot where I think it's become something else. And it's just the things that I find interesting and the things that I think about, the story is now entering I have to talk about it. I have to scratch an itch with this story. So we're going to do that and talk Bucks, both, and your phone calls, 608-321-1670. But first, 2 minutes of headlines, the latest in Wisconsin sports with Zach Heilprin, our sports director. We'll be right back.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, it's an off day for the Brewers. That's after they took the second game of their series against St. Louis yesterday afternoon to earn a split. They'll be back in action tomorrow night when they welcome the Yankees to American Family Field for a weekend series. Milwaukee currently 19-16 on the year, tied for third in the NL Central, 5 games back of the division-leading Cubs. Turning to the Bucks, They introduced their new head coach, Taylor Jenkins, yesterday. While many of the questions were about what he'll bring to Milwaukee, the cloud hanging over the franchise continues to be the future of Giannis Antetokounmpo. The Bucks made clear to Jenkins before hiring him they weren't sure if Giannis would still be with the franchise next season. For his part, Jenkins says he understands the situation.
Obviously, we have big and important decisions as a team and organization over the course of the summer. We're going to have great dialogue with all of our players, Giannis included. But that's the belief and trust I have with this group right here. I know the belief and trust that they have in me, that we're going to have those appropriate conversations and navigate important decisions for not just now, but the future.
Co-owner Jimmy Haslam told reporters they would like to have Giannis's future figured out before the start of the NBA draft, which is coming in the third week of June.
Everyone should feel confident about their path forward. Exact Sciences is now Abbott, and together they will transform the way cancer is detected, diagnosed, and managed for more people around the world. They continue to help patients and healthcare providers make timely, informed decisions before, during, and after a cancer diagnosis by partnering with the industry and institutions to transform how to approach cancer. Known for the Cologuard and Oncotype DX tests, allow Abbott to help make a positive impact in your health path forward. Learn more at abbott.com.
Well, Wisconsin's season opener against Notre Dame at Lambeau Field will come under the lights. It was announced this morning. The game on Sunday, September 6th, will kick off at 6:30 on NBC. Meanwhile, Packers finishing up the first week of Phase 2 of their offseason program. None of the program is mandatory outside of a minicamp coming up in the middle of June. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil, Print.
This is kind of I don't want to say transitional time, but definitely more turnover than they've had in recent memory. One, it's weird. You look at the stats from last year, their leading wide receiver was Romeo Doubs with 55 catches. Wicks, who they just traded to the Eagles, cut 29 balls. So it's not like they had multiple guys, 80, 90 catches like they have in years past with the Jordy Nelsons, the Donald Drivers, the Devontae Adams. This is a unit that they're going to need to step up, and Tucker is a huge part of that. I think there's a ton of pressure on Matthew Golden. I think they need Matthew Golden to be, a 65 to 75 catch guy immediately next year and give him, explosive speed with Watson down the field and account for 7-8 touchdowns. This is a team, they're going to need some of their unproven guys to really pick them. Tucker Kraft's got to be one of the best tight ends in the league. Micah Parsons has to be like a defensive player of the year type guy, which he has been over the course of his career.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
Hour number 2, Packers coded intro. We started the show with the Packers back at 4 o'clock. And, I'll talk Packers if you want. Certainly good conversation with Aaron Nagler at 4:15. So if you have anything to add to that, certainly I'll take your phone calls. 608-321-1670. Want to get to the Bucks a little bit this hour, too. Jim Owczarski going to be here at 5:30. But I want to do a couple minutes, if you'll allow me. And I talked about this on Bill's show earlier today because the news broke when it happened. We have a development between Diana Russini and Mike Vrabel. I'm fairly certain we've reached the point in the story where the practical impact has reached an end. Like, I don't think Mike Vrabel's job will change, or I don't think he will lose his job moving forward. And Diana Russini already lost her job. So really at this point, the story's just continued gossip, which to some is interesting. I find the story compelling and interesting. Diana Russini hasn't been, seen publicly, or she hasn't told her story or come out with any sort of thing since her resignation letter. So really at this point, the story is just gossip. And if you find that interesting, cool. And if not, it's totally cool too. So if you're like, Grant, why are you talking about this? It's not a story. Oh, okay. Maybe you don't think it's a story. Some do, some don't. It's a matter of opinion. Why I think this is interesting is earlier today, we got a headline from TMZ, and they have records that Diana Russini and Mike Vrabel in 2021, I believe, rented a boat on a Tennessee lake, and they went cruising. And this is when Diana Russini was pregnant with her second child or whatever. And it's an interesting headline, a juicy headline, like, ooh, another place where Mike and Diana were affairing. That's not a word, but you know what I mean. And then a couple hours later, TMZ has the exclusive video. So what I assume happened is that TMZ got their hands on these boat records, or someone who once rented them a boat said, "Ooh, I should sell this information to TMZ." They put out the story that Mike Vrabel and a pregnant Diana Russini once upon a time went out on a boat. 2021, interesting. This is a juicy story. People will click on it. And then that comes out, and then I would imagine that some guy who was at the lake that day on the dock saw Mike Vrabel on the dock and took a video, a Snapchat at the time, didn't think anything of it. Oh, look, there's Mike Vrabel. Saved it, sent it to his buddies, and probably hasn't thought about it since. Saw the headline today and said, "Oh, I have a video that I should DM TMZ. I should see if I can get any money for it." And then TMZ publishes it. The reason I think this is interesting, and I would imagine this is going to continue to happen. I think we'll probably in the next week or 2 or 3, I think we'll keep getting these video clips of Vrabel and Diana Russini here in 2022 and Diana Russini and Mike Vrabel on a date or doing this thing, I don't know, riding the Ferris wheel in 2024. Who knows? I think we're going to keep getting this stuff. And to me, this is now become a landmark case, in my opinion. I think this is not a lexicon. This is a landmark moment. I think we have crossed some sort of a Rubicon here with this story. Let me explain. We've now, for 10, 12, 13 years, how long have you had a smartphone? How many years have you had a smartphone with a camera in your pocket with you all the time? For me, it's been about 10 years. Got it, I think, senior year of high school. I graduated high school in 2016, so that was 10 years ago. So maybe a little bit more than 10 years ago, I've had an iPhone. And even if you have a Samsung, they're all practically the same. They do the same things. We use them in the same way. For the last 10 years or so, we've gotten pretty used to pulling our phones out and just, oh, look at that cool thing. I'm going to take a 6-second video. I'm going to save it, and I won't think about it again. And in a year, my phone will buzz me and say, hey, remember a year ago today when you were doing this? And you're like, oh, that's cool. I like that feature of Snapchat. Take a little Snapchat memory, save it. And a year or 2 years, 3 years down the road, it's like, oh, remember when we were on this trip? And it's just kind of fun. I send it to the friends who are in it. It's kind of fun. But we're just so more, we just take videos now. When I was little, or when I was younger, in order to take videos, you had to get the video camera out. And not like the digital video camera. That came later. But I mean, like in the early 2000s, you had to get the video camera out that had the tape that went in it and the big battery pack, So I remember being a kid and being like, Mom, Dad, can we get the camera? And they're probably like, oh, God knows if it's charged. Yeah, let me go into the closet. It's on the top shelf. It's a whole production. You didn't just used to take a quick video of things. But now it's like, oh, I think that's Mike Vrabel. I'm on Main Street, Nashville. Just look at this. Send it to my guy friends. Look, Mike Vrabel's out for drinks. We take videos like that. We save them. We don't think about it anymore. And I know, and I've thought about this a bunch, because I grew up in a generation. Now I went to college specifically in a generation where everything's recorded. Remember that story 2, 3 years ago, 4 years ago? There was a student at a Wisconsin college who was really drunk, didn't know where they were, and was saying slurs. Remember this? I think I remember the person, where they went to school and where they're from, but I'm not going to say it because I think when you're obliterated drunk and your friends are taking videos of you, I don't think that should be held against you. But everything's video now. You remember this? We take videos of everything. Back in the day, that would have happened. No one would have remembered it. But I'm of a generation, and certainly the people younger than me, where just everything's recorded. There's a little video clip of you doing every stupid thing with your friends in every stupid place you've ever been. And I think about this often, where it's like, look, there's going to be some Gen Zer who's going to run for president someday. And every Tom, Dick, and Harry who knew this candidate in high school and in college would be like, oh, I think I was at a party. Like, everyone's going to go back through their library, their dictionary, their vault of little 5 to 10 second videos that they have and find it, right? Like, I remember that guy always running for president. Hold on. I think I played Boom Cup with him one time. And now all of a sudden you have a video and they're blackout hammered and they say a word they shouldn't say because they're rapping along with a song or whatever. It's like that never, 20 years ago, that wouldn't have happened. Doesn't make saying bad words better. Doesn't mean that cheating, having an affair with another woman and renting a boat is okay. It doesn't change the moral aspect of it, but everything's recorded now. So I always thought that this concept, that this idea that now everything is recorded, I always thought this was going to present by, some Gen Z person eventually running for president, their whole life is just, recorded. And it'd be a huge deal. Because obviously in politics, you're going to want to find any dirt that you can. And it's going to be easy to find dirt one day. And I thought it would take a younger person eventually running for a big public office. But I think we're seeing it now. This is what we're seeing. We're seeing Mike Vrabel and Dianna Russini caught up in a sex scandal. And because Mike Vrabel is famous, and we record everything now for the last 5 to 8 years, stemming back to 2018, 2019. Remember when going back to when he started with Tennessee, people have always, there's Mike Vrabel. Take a little video. Didn't think anything of it. Yeah, he might have been with a woman. I don't know. Who cares? I'm not focused on the woman he's with. But now, every Tom, Dick, and Harry with a cell phone who has even a small little tangent of a memory, like, didn't I see Mike Vrabel? I saw Mike Vrabel at a casino. I think I took a video. Hold on, let me look. This is just going to keep going and going and going. And this will not be the last case like this. This is going to become the norm, where there's a scandal, there's a story involving a person, a sex scandal or a cheating scandal or whatever, and it's going to date back, and now everybody with the phone's going to be, wait, I think I saw that, and these everything's videoed now. Everything's videoed, everything's available. Goose Egg says, imagine the recording in Lone Rock, Wisconsin. Horrifying. I drove through Lone Rock last week, Goose Eggs. I thought of you. This is the world we live in. I think this Mike Vrabel, Dianna Russini story is continuing because people are clicking it. So I think our behavior modifies the media because the media is competing for our attention. And when we give a story attention, the story will continue. It's an attention marketplace. Everyone wants our clicks. Everyone wants our time, our energy, our eyeballs. And I also think the story, the content behind the story is being driven by the technology we use, the affordances that a camera in our pocket all the time gives us. You see Mike Vrabel in 2002, he'd be like, that guy plays for the Patriots. Hey, Mike. Yeah, go Pats. And then you keep walking. Your first response wouldn't be what it is now. Hold on, let me get him. There's Mike Vrabel. There's Mike Vrabel. Hey, Mike. A little video. Send it to your dumbass buddy. Hey, look, it's Mike Vrabel. Save it. Forget about it. But now that's saved. You forget about it years later. You come back. It's like, wait a minute. Who is he with? Everything's videoed. This story and all of the videos and things that have come out after the fact, this should, I don't want to say scare you, but this should be a very sobering reminder of how our world works now. Because this is far from the last story that will ever happen like this and present like this. 608-321-1670. We don't have to talk about this. I want to talk about that a little bit. I find it interesting. So call me on whatever. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, Grant. How we doing?
I'm doing excellent. Is this Cone Roller?
Yeah, a little stuffed up today.
No, what's going on, Cone?
I don't really have much to say on the Dianna Russini stuff. I think this story's kind of jumped the shark a little bit. Like, I agree. Unless some really bombshell stuff comes out, but them on a boat together, who cares?
It's gossip. And for people who eat it up, I mean, people are clearly eating it up because they're going to keep posting. I mean, it's going to make these companies, it's going to get them clicks. But I'm with you. Like, if you don't like gossip, there's, I don't think anybody else is going to lose their job. I don't think practically anything's going to change. So I don't disagree with you.
Yeah. And I also saw she came out and denied that, her son's named after Mike Vrabel and actually her brother named Mike. So, story over.
I feel like people are reaching on that. Like, I would bet against it being Mike Vrabel's kid. You know what I mean? Like, people talk about it like, well, it's probably his kid. I'm like, well, wait a minute now. Like, I that still seems pretty unlikely. I understand, again, why people go there. But that part of the story specifically, I think, has jumped the shark for sure.
Yeah, I think they maybe need to go on Maury and do a paternity test, or Jerry Springer and R.I.P. King, but something like that. That should be their public punishment for this.
I wonder if she does Good Morning America and she tells her story. That's what Mike Vrabel should maybe be afraid of. I think he's fine, and I think we're moving on. I don't think he's going to lose his job. But what if she comes out and it's a huge, you know what I mean? That's still in the cards. She has yet to emerge and do her media appearance, which I think will be a big deal. One of these networks will probably pay her a lot of money for it.
Yeah, I could also, she's close with the Part of My Take boys. I could, maybe that's where she goes on too.
Speaking of new media, wouldn't that be a sign of the times?
Oh yeah. But back to the Packers.
Yes.
I'm kind of actually concerned about this receiving room. The more I think about it. Because you didn't really replace Romeo Doubs with anything. And what you got? Watson, Reed, Golden, Kraft. Is that enough? Are those high quality enough of weapons to be a Super Bowl contender?
I think that's a fine question and concern to have, Cone. Absolutely. If Matthew Golden is as advertised, it works fine. He slides right into Romeo Doubs. But replacing Romeo Doubs is not some tiny, small thing. He's a very productive receiver for 3 or 4 years. So I'm with you. Packers fans, I don't think you should feel perfectly confident in Golden or in Morgan sliding in at left tackle. Those are super fair questions to have.
Yeah, we'll see. I think a lot of pressure on Golden. We'll see if, usually pressure makes diamonds. I don't know if it makes gold, but we're going to find out.
You're the worst. You're the absolute. You suck so much. Cone, anything else where I get to some other callers?
Tough having an off day today for the Brewers. Yankees come into town and we're just going to get shellacked by Aaron Judge, and we're honoring CeCe Sabathia against the Yankees. I don't like that. He's our guy. He's not the Yankees guy.
I agree with you on the Yankees. Appreciate it, Cone. I'm worried about the pitching, man. Like, you're going to go up against Max Fried and Cam Schlittler on back-to-back days. With this offense, good luck. The Sabathia thing, I guess I haven't even, I'm behind on that. Honestly, this week, folks, I'm just like, how do I get through 10-2? And then how do I get through 4-6? Bill will be back tomorrow. I'll be more locked in, I promise. Let's take another call here. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Well, things ain't always what they seem. So wake up, Grant. It's Mad Max in the tunnels under Racine.
Good evening, Mad Max. There's a lot going on in those tunnels these days, I would imagine. There's some crazy big stories in the news.
Yeah, there sure is. And first off, cone roller, feel better. I don't think it's too early to start taking your ivermectin and drinking your raw milk just to make yourself immune for this coming hantavirus pandemic. And the more I read about it, the more concerned I am. I'm starting to think that, I'm starting to have the eerie feeling that I did in the early days of COVID as well.
The
so
before
I'm just hoping
times.
it doesn't come to that.
Can I just say, I'm not a doctor. And I see a lot of conflicting reports. I see a lot of, well, chances are it's just so I'm not losing my mind. And even if it's like, hey, the world's going to end, well, there's not really much I can do about it. So I'm trying not to lose my mind about it either. What I don't get is it was contained to a cruise ship. And everyone knew it was contained to the cruise ship, right, Mad Max? No one was caught off guard, right? Everyone knew exactly what was going on. And the people who ran the cruise and the local authorities and the CDC, apparently, the way I see it here, Mad Max, you can correct me if I'm wrong, or maybe you have intel from the tunnels, let everyone get off the boat, get on planes, and go back to their respective corners of the world. And then the CDC comes out and said, we're monitoring it. It's like, what? Like, what do you all do? What do you had them on a boat? You had them isolated, and you're like, well, don't worry, we're watching it. I mean, we let them all get on planes and travel internationally, but don't worry, we're watching it. Like, that just that doesn't make sense to me. That doesn't compute. Certainly, I must have something wrong.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm seeing too. I don't really get it either. I don't trust a lot of the information that we're seeing early on because, like you said, we're seeing a lot of conflicting reports, but the fact that this is what we're seeing, I mean, how can you tell people that this isn't a conspiracy, that the cabal isn't intentionally spreading this and that COVID was just a trial run for something bigger. It would, I mean, obviously I believe these things to begin with, but how do you convince someone like me that that's not happening?
I don't know. It's just wild to me that they're like, yeah, we're watching it. Don't worry. We're going to contact trace. It's like, well, forget contact tracing now. Who cares? Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's irrelevant. Like, I remember when COVID first started and there were the first couple cases. I was in college at the time at UW La Crosse, and there was the first couple cases and everyone's like, yeah, if you were at Broncos stateroom, Dell's, or at the time it wouldn't have been La Crosse Beer House. What was the name before? Not Coconut Joe's. Whatever, the bar down there. If you were at any of these bars, get tested. It's like, well, no, it's cooked now. Like, you can't contract trace anymore. You put people on like 3 or 4 international flights. Well, we'll watch it. Okay, well, what's the point now?
Yeah. In Grant, I saw a news story today. I just came across an interesting news story that it talked about there was a server outage at Foxconn in Racine that was sending all the workers home, and they were wondering when they were going to get back to work. So I think something's up. I think something big is up right now there.
Foxconn Dome. They need the Dome for something, Mad Max. We'll follow this. I just want to get one or two more calls here, and we got to get to a break because Jim Owczarski's coming up. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Grant, your brain is not mush. We're all pulling for you just as hard as we can. All
well,
right?
Thank you, Mississippi.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So I wonder how much he's paying attention to the wildfires in Georgia. That's an interesting situation as well, because it just so happens that a bunch of the places these wildfires are just magically springing up are places where they want to build data centers and declare eminent domain and take a bunch of land. And it's pretty odd the way that's coinciding. So, and that's kind of proving to be something that's going on too, is all these wildfires popping up in all these interesting places. So might want to look into that a little bit too.
I just don't know how I'm supposed to exist. Mississippi Drew, perfect call. Let's talk again soon. There's one more call I want to get to. I don't know how I'm supposed to. How does anyone go on the internet anymore? I'm just trying to get my arms around this whole hantavirus thing. It's like, well, actually, they're burning large swaths of forest to make way for data centers in Georgia. Like, oh, okay. Well, I mean, I can only be upset. I can only monitor so many situations here. Also, like, are the Bucks going to trade Giannis? Like, that's on the front burner too. I can only juggle so many things. I'm not Ebo, who juggles all of these things perfectly. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Grant, my man, it's Lee from the Western City. How you doing?
I'm doing excellently. Is there any forest burning down near Westby or the surrounding areas? I hope not.
There's none at the golf course, which is where I'm currently at. I just want to tighten up my cart before we play on Saturday. This could be the scene of Late Fundy's triumph, because I think the women in the scramble get to play on the forward tees, and if she's banging at 230 down the fairway from the forward tees,
yeah,
you're gonna have a nice round. Which, you know, I'm happy for you. Mad Max brought up that hantavirus. Apparently, hantavirus is from mice, and you know that is not transmitted human to human, the normal one. But this is apparently the Andes one, because they came from Argentina, which I was told, I mean, it's on the internet, so it has to be true. I was told that, that can go person to person, allegedly. You know, so I'm also stocking up on my ivermectin and chloroquine, whatever they call it. Mm. And, you know, I heard Drew calling in. You know, he's probably calling in, if I had to judge by his truck taste, he's probably calling in from a Samsung. I have an iPhone 16 Pro Max. Not that matters. And Vrabel, you know, not only is he rocking the boat, you know, quote unquote, with this whole scandal and everything, you know that somebody out there is sitting on the Moby Dick of recordings with him and Russini. No pun intended. And they're just waiting for the biggest paycheck. And, you know, people say, well, I mean, she's pregnant. You know, how would, you know, that they wouldn't do that. Yeah. Okay. Well, I had kids and I didn't mind doing the teeter-totter myself. And I forgot one last thing on the Bucks earlier. Chris Middleton had crooked teeth, but I still love cheering for him. Thanks, Grant. I hope we can make it to the rest of the show.
I appreciate it, Lee. Yeah, this whole hantavirus thing. Can I just say, as a conclusion to this, and then we're going to come back, why do you people need to be going on cruises? Well, it's just nice. You know, they have drinks and they got a pool and bars and live music. Just go to Destin, you psychopaths. Can you name me a positive cruise headline? The Titanic, the poop cruise, the cruise in Italy that turned on its side, the something of the seas. I can't remember. Why do you people need to hey, what if we took booze and a pool and we stayed in a hotel, but we did it hundreds of miles out in international water when we're on a ship we can't get off and in water that's thousands of feet deep? Just go to an Airbnb in Destin or Biloxi and call it a day. I like to go on a cruise. Just sit by a pool. You can get all the things that you can get on a Carnival cruise, you can get at the Great Wolf Lodge in Wisconsin Dells. I don't get it. Okay, but whatever. It's fine. Start another pandemic or end up on the poop cruise or sink in the North Atlantic. You can knock yourself out.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
All right, Wisco Sports Show. Going to be a quick segment here. Apologies. Jim Owczarski coming up after 5:30. Journal Sentinel was at the introduction yesterday of new Bucks coach Taylor Jenkins. A couple of texts. Get caught up on the text line over here. Good way to spend a couple minutes here before we break. 608-321-1670. Robbie says, Lee is a giant tool that loves his BS objects way too much. Oh my GMC Denali. Oh my iPhone Max. I bet he wishes that iPhone would give him a... I can't read that word, Robbie. A hand, an HJ. Who wants an HJ? Todd and Holman says, has the Wisco Sports Show turned into the Alex Jones show now? What is happening? Just turned the show on and made sure you were still there to talk sports. LMAO. Along the same lines as this text. Grant, I listen to your show to avoid the news, not get the most effed up version of it. 5 minutes into listening to your show today, I heard references to raw milk, COVID, some new virus I haven't even heard of, wildfires and data center. Man, you turned in at the you turned in at quite the time. Why? Let's talk Brewers. Well, I thought you wanted to talk about something that's not a wildfire. Now you're telling me you want to talk about the Brewers. Brandon Sproat was good yesterday. The Brewers liked it. Andy in Sun Prairie. Good job filling in for Bill all week. I know it's not easy. Take care. See you around. Oh, thank you, Andy. Why did those things come up? Well, you also, I will say, if you were unhappy with the last segment, you also missed the 7 minutes I did on Diana Russini and Mike Vrabel. This is a canary in the coal mine if I've ever seen one. We're going to have so many more stories like this where it's like, can you believe it? And then over the next 2 or 3 months, people just digging up texts, digging up pictures because we take pictures of everything now. Thank you all for your texts. Appreciate it. Lee in the Western City did mention the wildfires. Or was that I think that was my brain's pudding. Mississippi Drew. Good God. Can't get to Jim Owczarski fast enough. I feel a little bad doing a 2-minute segment, although Bill does it to get back on track. Jim Owczarski next. He's going to join us to talk Bucks. He was at the presser yesterday for Taylor Jenkins, and I picked his brain about, well, what about the Giannis of it all? What are they going to do in the draft? Their offseason messaging over the last couple of months. How are the Bucks preparing themselves? How are they positioning themselves? Jim Owczarski going to join us next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
And like I said, the draft's June 23rd and 24th. So sometime over the next 6 or 7 weeks, we'll decide whether Giannis is going to sign a max contract and stay with us, or he's going to play somewhere else. And John and Taylor, and along with Wes and myself, will make that call, and we understand the gravity of that call.
That's Jimmy Haslam yesterday. Question from Lori Nickel, and when Lori asked it, I said, yes, Lori, ask the owner. John Horst isn't going to give you anything. Taylor Jenkins isn't going to give you anything. Those guys are buttoned up. The kooky owner might give you a little something. It's the Jerry Jones approach to journalism. Ask that guy. He might just give you something. And I don't know that he gave you anything crazy there. But I like the strategy. Lori Nickel, the co-worker, the co-writer, the teammate of Jim Owczarski at the Journal-Sentinel, who joins us now. Jim, there's obviously a million angles from which to attack this thing. They hired a new coach, which I want to talk about. But that comment from Jimmy Haslam to me seems like an extension of the message we got in the Ramona Shelburne story at the end of March when the Bucks ownership group wanted to make it clear he's extending or we're trading him. And I think yesterday, as much as it is about introducing a coach, it was another opportunity for Bucks ownership and brass to position, right? To get certain messages out or position themselves going in to this offseason with some Giannis uncertainty. So can we start there? Maybe some intentional messaging from ownership and management about how we're going to proceed with Giannis the next few weeks?
Yeah, I mean, look, everybody loves a deadline, right? And it sounds like that's a deadline to a degree. Now we'll see what this looks like, June 25th after the draft is concluded, and if Giannis is still on the team, and what John Horst has to say about that. But it makes sense because, look, Grant, this has hung over this team for the better part of a calendar year now. It was the combine last May when, the sources began saying things yet again about Giannis evaluating his future and all these things, which is honestly, Grant, something, Milwaukee Bucks fans have heard to some degree since 2018. It just never went away, despite Giannis's and Doc Rivers' best efforts to maybe quell that. And so here we are again. And Grant, what I'll say is, look, I mean, ownership, they're the ones making the call. This is an ownership decision. It's not a John Horst decision. It's not a Giannis decision, really. I mean, he could apply a little pressure and say, I'm not going to sign that extension. But on April 13th or 12th, Grant, in Philadelphia, in his exit interview, we did a thought exercise together. And I said, Giannis, if they offer you an extension, that means you're on the team on October 1st. And if you're on the team on October 1st, the implication is that A, they want you here, and B, they've sort of rebuilt the team around you. And he acknowledged that and said, yeah, and of course I'm going to consider that. So I think all parties know, Grant, that if he's on the team come October 1st, he's signing the extension here. Yeah. So I think what this call was, it was more a public negotiating stance of, all right, other teams, make us make a move. And then slightly after that, to me, it's Giannis. If you really want out, you're going to need to say so in clear terms.
Yeah.
And we've got 6-7 weeks to see if either happens.
Is it an incorrect conclusion for me to draw, listening to everybody's commentary yesterday? Is it incorrect for me to conclude that they could have pumped the Giannis tires a little bit more? They could have found a way to work Giannis in a little bit more. It seems like anytime, what does Giannis think about this? Did you consult Giannis? Whether it was Horst or Jenkins or Haslam, they were very quick to say yes or no, Giannis wasn't involved. And then they kind of moved on. Whereas they could have spent 30 to 60 seconds in any given answer saying, well, Giannis wasn't involved, but here's what we were thinking of, and here's what we know Giannis likes. Like I just felt there could have been a more conscious effort to pump the Giannis tires in some of their messaging had they wanted to, and I don't know that they wanted to. That's my takeaway from yesterday.
Yeah, I don't think they necessarily wanted to either. And some of that is maybe a lot of that has to do with just this broader uncertainty. I mean, look, he's under contract. He's on the team. So Taylor Jenkins did all the right things in navigating this with acknowledging, Giannis and him be on the team, them having their conversation. I talked to Giannis the other day, and he was effusive about Taylor as a head coach and what he can do for the Bucks. That's not the issue. I think I think they just didn't want to set a tone of, this is all revolving around him. And then on June 23rd, we trade him.
Okay.
And then you just sort of got to almost restart again before the season even begins, Grant. So I think it's a good observation on your part. I think they answered the questions, yes or no. And then kind of just let it be, because frankly, over these last few years, it has gotten a little out of control, with just a lot of that discourse. And I think this was their way to just, introduce the new head coach, answer the questions that were asked, and then try to move on, or at least push the story in their view further.
Okay. Jim Owczarski, the Journal Sentinel, joining us. He was there yesterday. And I know you have a follow-up where you talked with Giannis and you got some comments. He was effusive in his praise of Jenkins. Did you have any takeaway specifically to his comments that made you think, one thing or another? Not even about his future, but was there anything that you gleaned from Giannis's comments that you have in your story?
I think his feelings about Taylor were so well known within the organization that this sort of concern that's out there of whether Giannis talked to Taylor or when he talked to Taylor in this instance, Grant, I think it's irrelevant, to be honest. I think it was good on the Bucks to maybe want to separate a player and a coach hiring. Look, it didn't go that great in 2023, right? And I'll be honest, I don't even know if Giannis wanted that again, but again, it didn't really matter. Like if they're going to redo this thing around Adetokounmpo, Grant, like they knew already how he felt about Taylor. Like that was, that goes back years. So there was no need to, hey, how do you feel about him? Is this good? That was already in the bloodstream. So, hey, are you going to be coached by him? We'll see. Well, that's not the typical sort of Giannis waffling we've maybe heard for 6 years, Grant, because literally ownership just said, we'll see. You know what I mean? So if anything, there's finally a team and a player on the same page with not knowing what the future holds.
Do you think, I'm just spitballing, I'm reading this from the outside, so you can tell me if I'm, barking up at least a somewhat right tree. I would just bet that there's decision makers and leaders in that Bucks building that feel as though Giannis may be operating the way that he did this last year really prevented them from having a competitive season. I know he was hurt, so that's thing number one. But I got to think there's some people near the top decision makers whose offseason decision making around Giannis are maybe centered around the fact or colored by the fact that he kind of was a big turd in the punch bowl this last season, kind of waffling 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Giannis has even said since the season ended, maybe if I could go back, I'd do it a little differently and I'd try to shut down some of these rumors. I just got to think that there's maybe frustration in that building past the normal friction that can, always exist between star player and organization.
I don't think you're wrong.
Okay.
I think it definitely wore on everyone to some degree, whether that be, ownership, John Horst, to, people running marketing or selling tickets. I'm sure it was a lot, and all the other years we've walked through this, talked through this, Grant, it didn't really matter because they were winning between 48 and 60 games.
Yep.
And then guys got hurt, and it's like, guys got hurt. So this was different, for sure. And the fact that Giannis acknowledged that, obviously highlights how different it was. It definitely was not great. I mean, Doc Rivers, Bobby Portis talked about it all year long. Like it sat there, and there wasn't the winning to help kind of deodorize the funk, So, that said, I don't think it necessarily matters going forward. As Giannis has said on the record, hey, whatever our issues are doesn't mean this is a divorce, because he went on that whole like marriage counseling analogy.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, that doesn't mean on April 12th, doesn't mean I'm not going to sign an extension. John Horst told us on April 7th, Grant, I don't need a promise from Giannis that he'll sign the extension. We just need to be aligned with the direction, and we've been doing this long enough. I believe him when he says he wants to retire the Bucks. So there's already common ground. I think last year in that way, Grant, where, those hard feelings I don't think are going to carry over. But that said, I think they're all operating differently because of it. Hence, the deadline, June 23rd, is he here or not? What does he want? What do we want? I think they're operating and messaging more decisively, more coherently, if I could say that word, because of the way last year played out.
And that was going to be my follow-up, decisively. Like, we're going to come out and say what we're thinking, because last year I think we both thought that we understood each other, and maybe we didn't. Like, organization thought you were fully in, and we weren't even going to hear about this until the offseason. And Giannis probably thought, well, no, I agreed to come back, but at any point I said I might want to revisit. I think maybe this spring, you're absolutely right. Like a marriage where, we thought we understood each other. Turns out we didn't. So we learned that we have to be really direct. And maybe that's what we're seeing. And that's not unhealthy or unnatural. That's just two sides, both, I think, doing what's best for them and their futures moving forward.
It's a good point, and that's actually a great tie back to the cut you played coming into the segment from Lori. Mm-hmm. She had a really, really extensive season-ending set of interviews with Giannis, and that was the beef, was communication. Are we on the same page? And to a degree, I do believe Jimmy Haslam when he said kind of later in the day, hey, the relationship between us and the player, excuse me, Grant, is better than maybe what others think it is. But clearly, that those open lines need to be further opened. And that's to this. And they're giving themselves this runway to really decide, hey, what do you truly want? Like, Grant, when I talked to Giannis on February 3rd, it's insane that I'm the one asking what he wants.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's, yes, I want to know the answer, but other people should have asked that also. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And so I think, if anything, that stuff should be done now. It feels like if you're willing to say certain things publicly from both parties, what else is there to say privately? Like, you've already kind of reopened those lines. So, I guess we'll see, Grant. The combine's next week. That's typically when rumors and things heat up because the whole league gets together in Chicago. So we'll see if sources have anything to add to this. But honestly, they've all said a lot on the record in the last few months. So, we'll just have to see where it ends up.
Just one big picture thought, Jim. I'm sorry, I'm selfishly, I just want to ask you about the playoffs. If I ran the Bucks and I was expecting to, maybe possibly be looking for a Giannis trade this summer, I think this postseason has progressed pretty nicely. I want teams with high opinions of themselves being humbled. I want the Celtics realizing, oh crap, maybe we're not the team that we thought, or the Magic, being a smaller time, smaller market, I guess relatively team that thinks, well, we're not close. Maybe we need to do something. Let's see how the Pistons and the Cavs go. I had Ty Windish on yesterday who said, well, what if the Spurs really get outclassed by the Wolves? I know they bounced back last night, but if the Spurs realize this sudden, well, we're farther away than we thought, isn't that what would be good for the Bucks? I feel like this postseason so far has maybe progressed in a way to lead to a better Giannis market this offseason than maybe we possibly thought.
I think that was probably a fair thought to have if you're the Bucks at the deadline and you passed on everything. I'd also argue, Grant, just from the other perspective, the playoffs also expose players, and maybe you had a high opinion of a guy and you're like, oh, wait a minute. This person, like, we still look, the Bucks are still going to be a functioning franchise with or without Giannis. So if the point is to try to win 50 games again, to make it to the conference finals again, how does a playoff flameout affect your view of some of these would-be star players, right?
Sure.
So I guess I'll put a little salt in your coffee on that one. But to your broader point, though, yes, teams are eliminated. It could create some desperation. Inherently, that's what the Bucks want, is a team to be desperate, to say, yes, I'll give you this 23-year-old all-star or 25-year-old all-star, this 23-year-old guy we really like, and like 4 draft picks.
Yeah.
Like you want whatever the Bucks would consider a Godfather offer. Because honestly, Grant, we can get into this with Bill down the line here on the PR battle and what actually the Bucks could use to like sway public opinion in their favor on this. But yeah, a playoff team getting knocked out, any playoff team that just is like, oh my goodness, but and that comes down to ownership. This is an ownership call in Milwaukee. That's inherently an ownership call elsewhere. And this, Grant, sometimes owners get a little, feisty and patient or whatever. And so that's always the wild card that you just really don't know until it happens.
The playoffs are brutal. Just to conclude, Jim, like you said, that the playoffs expose things. Like, imagine being a Celtics fan, dream of a season, all of these young, plucky bench players making a name for themselves. And then you play one playoff series. It's like, oh, those guys actually can't play in the playoffs. Those guys who we loved cheering for and thought we have such a strong bench and bench mob. Yeah, they're actually not like workable, usable players in the. It's a brutal wake up call for so many fan bases this time of year. And when it's not my team, it's kind of funny to watch. It's brutal when it's my team. I've been there. We were there in 18, 19 when all of a sudden we ran into the Raptors and all these players we thought were great. It's like, well, turns out they're not. They're not playoff guys. It's a brutal time of year for so many fan bases and teams.
Right. No, that's exactly right. And that's where evaluation matters and, career arcs matter is the 24-year-old, who maybe has struggled 2 straight playoffs, but he's 6 years into the league.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the balance, right? Like, look, Giannis and Chris went through their growing pains. They weren't supercharged playoff guys till they were in their late 20s. That's typically how this works. Typically, right? So, there's always an exception, of course. And so that's the hard part about these decisions, Grant, is because, look, at the end of the day, your ceiling with Giannis Antetokounmpo, and that's a parade.
Yeah.
And after that, it's everything else is a mystery. And it's how comfortable are you as an organization to truly disassociate yourself, truly cut those ties, and start over. And there's a lot that goes into it, well beyond basketball as well, Grant, and so, it's a count, as Jimmy said, I'll give him that, it's a big, big decision and it's a real important one because it's either going to set the franchise back for decades or, maybe only for a year or two.
Yeah.
So that's not, because put it this way, Grant, they're not getting a better player.
No.
So they're not going to be better.
No.
And that's a hard pill to swallow if you're a pro sports team. So, I think that's why they're still truly unsure about it.
And at least the owner's not approaching it flippantly, it seems. At least he appreciates and understands the gravity, which is a start as we embark onto this offseason. Jim, it's going to be fascinating. I've kept you too long. Thank you for the time and putting up with me instead of Bill today. Appreciate it.
Anytime, Grant. Talk to you next week.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
I just think that's where this train is heading towards. Giannis ends up a Celtic.
Oh, so you think that's going to happen? Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Jaylen Brown. I think again, we'll see what he says. He's doing more streams today. We'll see what he says. I don't think he is being subtle about the fact that he wants to be the lead guy on a team. And by the way, I don't blame people for that. Like, I don't. If he's like, I did 10 years as a sidekick. I got a little taste of being the number one guy, and I loved it.
I was an MVP candidate.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
I'm interested to see what he's frustrated about. I'm interested to, on these streams, if he does air it out, how did the frustrations manifest? Because he was the number one guy. When Tatum came back, he was still the number one guy.
Deep down, he thinks, guys, I've always been the number one guy.
Nick Wright, Kevin Wildes, Chris Broussard, first things first. Now, in sports, I'm always going to bet on nothing will happen. It's always the most likely outcome. It's always the most likely outcome that the Packers don't trade for Micah Parsons. It's always the most likely outcome that the Celtics keep their coach and keep all their players after this playoff exit. But I don't like closing the door on anything, and it really does feel like there's some real juice to Boston and Milwaukee. I know Jaylen Brown came out and kind of said, look, I didn't mean to come across any certain way. I hate that Brad Stevens had to even answer for this. I love Boston. I hope I'm, there forever, blah, 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 blah. There's just a lot of noise. And Boston's a noisy media market. There's a lot of people that speak on behalf of Boston and cover Boston. So maybe that's partly it too. There's just a larger megaphone with sports stories that come out of that town. It's just a lot of smoke, probably no fire, because usually there's no fire. It's always the safest bet to bet on nothing happening. But every once in a while. So I don't know. Boston to the Celtics, Jaylen Brown to the Bucks, or maybe to the Hawks, and then the picks go to the Bucks. I don't know. Worth discussing. Bill will be back tomorrow at 10. I will be back tomorrow at 4. Podcast will go up in just a little bit. Thank you for listening, always.